Mateo was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. No one really noticed him. No one asked his name. He swept the hallways, mopped the locker rooms, and wiped away the footprints left by men who would become legends. His name was Ernesto, and he was the cleaner at La Masia. He never spoke of his own dreams, but he had a son, a quiet boy named Thomas, who would sit outside the training ground with a tattered notebook and wide eyes, watching the players with reverence. Lionel Messi was just 16 when he first noticed the boy. Thomas didn't cheer, didn't ask for autographs. He simply watched, studied. It was as if he was learning football through silence. One evening, as Messi walked out alone, nursing a bruised ankle, he saw Thomas sitting with his knees hugged to his chest. "You okay?" Messi asked. Thomas nodded. "You play beautifully," he whispered. Messi smiled. "Thanks." There was a long pause. "My dad says you're going to change everything," Thomas added. Messi laughed. "Your dad is very kind. He also says you never forget a promise." Messi tilted his head. "Did I make you a promise?" Thomas looked down at his shoes. "Not yet." Something about the moment lingered. Messi took a pen from his bag, pulled a folded match ticket from his jacket, and scribbled on the back. "To Thomas, one day, I'll play with you. Leo." He handed it to the boy like it meant nothing, but for Thomas, it became everything. The years passed. Messi rose, goals, titles, history. He became a name whispered in awe across continents. Children wore his number. Fathers told stories of his genius. Even the wind seemed to move differently when he touched the ball. And Thomas? He remained a shadow. He grew up in the echoes of stadium cheers he could never afford to hear in person. He played with friends on gravel lots, using stacked bricks as goalposts. He never joined an academy, never wore a jersey with his name, but he kept the ticket, folded, worn, tucked inside the back of his sketchbook. Ernesto grew older. He worked slower. The limp in his left leg never really healed. His back curved more each year, and his hands became maps of calluses and old scars. But he still cleaned the boots, still swept the floor where Messi once tied his laces. He never asked for autographs, never bragged, but his pride was etched in every polished tile. One winter, Ernesto passed away, quietly, without news, without attention. There was no obituary in the paper, no tribute on the club's page, just silence. Thomas was 19, and for the first time, truly alone. But he didn't cry, not immediately. He opened his father's locker, and there it was, Messi's ticket. The signature smudged, the paper nearly falling apart. He held it as if it might vanish, as if the ink still held heat from the hand that wrote it. He read the words again, and for the first time, they didn't feel like a dream, they felt like a challenge. Thomas began to train, obsessively. He found an old pair of cleats, too big for his feet. He ran drills alone. Morning, night, in the rain, in the dark. He studied every move Messi ever made, the dribbles, the turns, the pauses before the pass. He mimicked, memorized, internalized. He borrowed DVDs from the local library, watched the same clips hundreds of times. Not because he wanted to be Messi, but because he needed to understand how someone so small could move the world. No coach guided him, no fans cheered, but he played, on concrete, on grass, on dirt. He played until his legs trembled, until his lungs burned. He worked at a bakery during the day, paid for his own gear, never asked for help. He stitched holes in his socks, re-glued his cleats, and used old water bottles filled with sand for strength training. He wasn't the best, but there was something in the way he moved. Raw, honest, like he was carrying something invisible but heavy. At 22, he joined a small neighborhood club. Semi-pro, unpaid. But the field was real, the grass wet, the jerseys matching. He wore number 10. He didn't tell anyone why. Meanwhile, Messi had changed leagues, changed cities, but never truly changed. He still trained longer than most, still read the crowd like music. He missed home more often now, missed the boy he used to be. Sometimes, when he looked out into a crowd, he saw a face that wasn't there, a memory, a moment. One day, a staff member at his foundation brought him a letter, handwritten, no return address. "You may not remember," it began, "but once you wrote on the back of a ticket that you would play with me one day." Messi stopped reading. He knew. Thomas. He turned the letter over. A photograph was paper-clipped to the back. It was of a boy on a dirt field, wearing an old jersey, holding a worn ticket. Messi stared at it for a long time. He remembered the hallway, the cleaner, the boy who watched in silence. Weeks later, a charity match was announced in Rosario. A Messi-organized event, former stars, young talents, fans in the stands. A last-minute addition was made to the roster. Number 10, Thomas. No last name listed. He arrived with borrowed cleats, a borrowed kit. The stadium lights felt blinding. He had never seen so many people, never heard his name shouted. Messi walked over, handed him a captain's armband. "You ready?" Thomas nodded. He couldn't speak. "You kept the ticket, didn't you?" Messi asked. Thomas pulled it from his sock, cracked, faded, but still there. "I never forgot," Messi said. "Let's play." The match didn't matter. The score wasn't remembered, but the pass did. Messi, with defenders closing in, looked up and saw a figure in space. He sent the ball forward without thinking. Thomas met it. One touch, shot, network. The crowd roared, not because it was a great goal, but because it was a promise, finally kept. Later that night in the locker room, Thomas sat quietly, jersey soaked, eyes distant. Messi sat beside him. Neither said anything for a while. Then Messi whispered, "Your father would be proud." Thomas finally smiled. "He was," he said, "even before tonight." They sat there, two lives that had run parallel for years, finally meeting in a moment neither would ever forget. Not because of football, but because of the promise, and the boy who never let go of it. And when Thomas stepped outside that night, walking past the same gates his father once opened each morning, he paused, looked back. The floodlights were dimming, but in his mind, they were still shining bright. He touched the ticket one last time, then folded it and placed it in his pocket. He didn't need it anymore, because now he had lived it.